Hi friends, I'm Alicia and this is my kitchen. Welcome to AA Homestead. Today I am super excited because I have something very fun to share with you guys. It took me a while to figure out if this was something that I wanted to have in my kitchen. A lot of research, and I've decided that it is something that deserves a spot in my kitchen. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you guys. Just give me 1 second. Oh my goodness. Andrew got me this for Christmas, which was a shocker. I was not expecting this at all, but I am so excited to try this with you guys. I have not used this, so we're going to be doing this together for the first time. Now that I've got everything out and about, I'll show you the pieces individually, which isn't much. So we've got our inner pot. Unfortunately, I don't really care that it's not stainless steel. I would prefer that it is stainless steel, but it is what it is. And then I've got my regulator here. This is going to go ahead and go on the top, and this is the lid. And it came with instructions, very detailed instructions for your pressure canning and your water bath canning, which I absolutely love. That's fantastic that they did that. This is kind of everything when it comes to something like this. Now, I did read this little important pamphlet or paper that it came with, and it does recommend putting something underneath your canner. And I am lucky enough to have a pizza stone that I can no longer use. Got it before I was celiac. I use these underneath, or use this underneath my air fryer, so this is perfect for that because the counter I don't think would do well if it was to get hot. So I'm going to put that under there. The other items that it does come with is obviously a cord, which is incredibly important that you have that comes with it. I do like that it is detachable. So that way, if I need to take, moving it, I don't have a cord dangling or anything like that. So I do like that. And I usually, I know with my Instapot, if I'm not using it, I put it directly in the pot, or I will put it inside without the liner. That way the liner sticks out. I never lose my cord, and I never forget it's there. Just a little tip on that. And of course, the last thing that it comes with is your bottom liner, which is good. And those are all of the pieces that it comes with. The great thing about this is not only is it a pressure canner, it is a water bath canner too, which is fantastic. I bought it more for the pressure canning aspects of it just because it's a lot easier for me to use an electric canner. I don't have a lot of space on my stove either, so I can water bath and pressure can with my electric canner at the same time, which is going to help save me a lot of time in the kitchen. So I am going to be pressure canning today. I'm going to be putting this canner to the test, and what we're going to be pressure canning is carrots, a whole lot of carrots. I think I've got like 7 or 8 pounds of carrots here. I even have more behind the screen that you can't even see. So the recipe that I'm going to be following is I ended up getting the latest edition of the Ball book. I am so excited about this and getting updated recipes. And not only, it says on the book that there are like 40 new recipes, which is super exciting. I normally go to the website for National Center for Home Food Preservation website, and that's where I get a lot of my pressure canning recipes. But there is the recipe for carrots on here, so we are going to be using the book today. So reading the instructions, what it's telling me to do is I need to plug in the canner, which I did, and I've got to put this liner in the bottom, which I'm going to be careful. There are, if you're worried about scratching like I am, there are little rubber things on here to keep it from scratching on the bottom, which is nice. That's my main concern about it not being stainless steel, is scratching it. Now the instructions are telling me that I need to fill this with 3 quarts of water or up to the line. I You guys aren't going to be able to see the line inside here, but there is a line, which is very nice to have in there, so you know where you need to fill it. With a regular pressure canner on the stove pressure canner, the first initial, you have to measure that, and then after that, it's pretty much stained on the inside, so you have an idea of where the water needs to be. I've got my liner in. I also have my jars in, filled with water so they don't float away. What I need to do is select pressure can and then processing time for those jars. I'm going to be using quart jars, and that's going to be 30 minutes. So we'll go to 30 and then continue. Now it's telling me to insert jars. I already did do that, so we're going to go ahead, continue. I do need to put the lid on. Maybe. Here we go. And then I need to keep the regulator off, but I need to put the sensor arm or the safety lock on, and it's going to take about 20 minutes for these jars to get hot. So now that we have the pressure canner all set, ready to go, it's going to take about 20 minutes for the electric canner to get those jars warm. I've got on the stove here, I've got my water getting up to a boil. I'm hoping the time frame works out with each other. Out of the book, I am using this recipe here, and I'm going to be using the hot pack method, which I usually prefer if a recipe offers that. I find it just a lot quicker and faster, which I usually am striving for just because canning season is quite chaotic. If you've ever watched any of my canning videos, I have a system that I prefer. So I lay down a towel, that way if I was to make any mess, especially if you are pickling anything, that brine can be really sticky and get really messy really fast. But we're just using water today, so I'm not particularly concerned. But because the jars are going to be hot and I'm using hot things, I just prefer to have a towel laid down in between the counter and the jars. So I've got a paper towel to wipe the rims, I've got my funnel, and then I've got my teaspoon for the salt. I've got my, to pick up my jars, my ladle. I've got my canning salt, my bands, lids, and of course the product. And then my hot pad here for when I put my boiling water here. I prefer to have a system. When I first started canning, it was kind of chaotic, didn't really know what I was doing, but after doing it for so many years, and it always changes, it's not always going to look like this. So depending on what I'm canning, it depends on what my station looks like. And if you have a smooth flowing station, that's really going to help you in your canning process and help it go a lot smoother and a lot faster. My jars are warm. It beeped at me twice, and I've got this little notification down here that tells me that I need to fill the jars. So I'm going to unlock. There's no pressure, so I don't have to worry about anything. Uh-oh. Oh, I forgot to lift the arm. That's why. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, they're nice and steamy. So it's telling me to discard the water that's in here, but it's not telling me where exactly. So I'm assuming into the sink. So I'm going to do that. All right, I've got my hot jar here. Going to do 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm going to fill the jar with a 1-inch headspace of carrots. Gonna give it a good shake and a few smacks, kind of work some of those carrots down. or if you want to wedge something in there to kind of help push those carrots down as well, you can do that. And that really works them down. So let's see where we're at. Fit a couple more in there. Let's see now. Just a little bit more, and then we'll call it good. Now we're going to go ahead and add our very hot water. It didn't say boiling, but I got it pretty close to that point. You want to be careful. All right, let's see where we're at. You also want a 1-inch headspace here too. Just a little bit more. Perfect. Get those air bubbles out. We're going to wipe the rim. Get a band, or sorry, lid, then band. Fingertip tight. Now we're going in the canner. All my jars are filled with carrots, so now I need to put the lid on. Twist till it locks. This is the sensor arm. And now I was confused. I thought this was the sensor. It is not. This is the latch. We're going to lock. Now we're going to go ahead and press the next or start button or resume. Now it's going to heat, and then it's going to get up to a temperature, and it does all of this for you, which is fantastic. Once it gets to where it needs to be, then it's going to go ahead and vent for 10 minutes by itself. It'll begin to count down. And then once that timer stops, then I am going to put the regulator up here. So it's not really giving me a time frame of how long it's going to take to heat up, which is fine. That's going to vary, I assume, depending on what you have in this canner. So once it gets to the venting process, I will be back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why it took me so long to figure out if this was something that I wanted in my kitchen, because during my research I've discovered that the USDA does not approve the electric canner. They don't approve any type of canner, and I did not know that at first. And because I had assumed, I thought it wasn't safe. Yes, I am leaving my canning jars in the hands of the manufacturer, but from my understanding and my research, they have guidelines that they followed that they had to meet, and on top of that, there are safety measures in this electric canner where if something was to happen, it's going to throw a code immediately, and that makes me feel a lot better. Now, I'm not trying to compare to an Instapot, but it's similar to an Instapot. And I've been using an Instapot for years. So if something was to happen with that, like a burn notice or if something was to fail, it's going to throw a code immediately. It makes me feel a lot better doing research, and then on top of that, knowing that it has these safety features. And also, there are codes here that it's showing. And on the water bath canning side too, it has error codes if something was to happen. I'm assuming these are the most common codes if it was to throw one. We are at 1 minute left before I have to put the regulator on, which is going to be this here. And the instructions are telling me once that happens, then it's going to make me proceed to the next step, which I do like that you have to be here to do that manually. It just doesn't automatically go. Okay. I don't know how many times it's going to beep. I think it just keeps beeping until you do it, which I do like that. So we're going to put the regulator on, and then we are going to proceed. Now it's going to do that 30-minute processing time, and then once that's done, I'll be back. Now we are in the cooling phase. This process is going to take some time. The instructions say about an hour and a half. I'm sure that varies with what you have in there and the amount that's in there. I know I've got a full load of 5 quart jars, so it's going to take probably that full hour and a half for it to come down. Once it does, it's going to light up for a 10-minute timer countdown, and when that happens, I will be back. My timer went off for the 10 minutes, which means it's done, but the pin hasn't dropped yet. So once that drops, then I can take this lid off and then take the jars out. My pin finally dropped, so now I can go ahead and take the lid off, take the regulator off, then go ahead and unlock and remove lid. And there we have it. I'm going to start taking them out one by one. Process is finally done. I'm very excited that that is done and over with and that we can experience that together. The process was really smooth. It went really well. These instructions that they provided really helped out. So a few things I want to talk about is why we did this. I know I had mentioned a few things, not only being easier on me, but the pros and the cons of this electric pressure slash water bath canner. So one of the reasons was for us was the propane. It is a lot cheaper for us to run this through electric than it is for propane. I have not pressure canned certain items because the processing time is so long that to me, I could not justify using that propane. So with this, now I can do those things that I couldn't before, which is a huge plus when you are trying to homestead. Something that I did notice right away, and we pretty much knew that right off the bat when we had talked about getting something like this, was that you can't fit as many jars in the electric canner than the stovetop canner. There is quite a bit of difference in that, but for us, between the propane and the electric, I can go back to back to back. I mean, I can still do that on the stovetop canner, but I'm still saving on propane. Plus side about the electric canner is I don't have to babysit it constantly like I would have to a stovetop pressure canner, where I need to keep my tight eye on that pressure gauge, where I don't have to restart my timer. This one has built-in safety measures for it. If something was to happen, it is going to alert me. So if I was in the other room doing something, or if I was water bath canning and not paying attention, it will do that and alert me. So that is definitely a bonus. Another bonus about the electric pressure canner versus the stovetop, it's going to save me space. That's a huge plus. With the stove that I have, even though it has 4 burners, I can't fit all the pots on there because, I mean, the water bath canner is pretty decent size depending on if I use my largest one. So I'm very limited on my stove, where with the electric pressure canner, I can pressure can and do water bath canning on the stove, or pressure canning on the stove as well. So that's a definite plus. As far as the time difference, I would really have to use them side by side to see if the time varies and which one will be quicker. Maybe they're both about the same. Maybe the electric pressure canner is a little bit quicker, in the process. I could be wrong there. Like I said, I would have to run it side by side. If you have a small kitchen and you're trying to do multiple things, I really like that the electric canner heats the jars inside that canner and holds it to temperatures, so I don't have to worry about them, thermal shock or anything like that, because typically I would use a pot, I would put it in the sink, and I would use the hottest water that I could get to keep the jars hot. So, I mean, it's taking up space if I need to use the sink or anything like that, which I can, but I can't fit a lot in the sink. So that's definitely a bonus, especially if you have a small kitchen. There are a lot of things that I could go through comparing this to water bath or, stovetop pressure canning. Those are just a few things that I had noticed going through that I thought were key points that I could mention to you guys between the difference and similarities of them. I personally really liked this. It was an easy process. The instructions were straightforward. There was no questioning really about anything. And to me, it was super easy to use. All right, friends. Well, I think that does it for hanging out in my kitchen today and enjoying my new electric pressure canner with me. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you had fun watching this, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as well and experiencing this. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video and joining me today. It would really help grow our channel if you hit that thumbs up and share and subscribe. We would really appreciate that. And then I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.